Hello, and a very warm welcome to the latest session of the iGlobal Living Bridge Conversations live series. I'm Tony Patty, and your host for this evening, and I'll be talking with the eminent author, researcher, and spiritual coach Dhruv Chhatralia at iGlobalnews.com, the premier multimedia hub for iGlobal for global Indians. And today we will be exploring the significance of Diwali in all its festive spiritual glow. And aren't you just looking forward to it as we are? So do drop in your comments and questions, and our guests will be more than happy to address these as we go along through the program today. Now, more on that as we go on, but for now, let's dive straight into some spiritual bliss and festive spirit and explore some fascinating facts and insights on Diwali from Dhruv Chhatralia. Now, I have to say that I did actually challenge Dhruv Chhatralia to a wrestling match, but then later found out that he was a black belt in various martial arts, so then resigned myself humbly to talking to him about Diwali instead. Dhruv, hello, and a very warm welcome to you.
Hi, Tony. Namaste. Jai Shri Krishna Sat Sri Akal to you and all our viewers, and delighted to be here. And nice to always start Diwali celebrations a bit early. And I can assure you that the black belt is more to I'll be your security and your protector more than anything else.
Oh, fabulous. And we love to get the whole session off with a smile as well. So thank you so much for joining us as well. So here we are then. Diwali has arrived, and it's a wonderful time of the year, full of celebration, full of inspiration, and also perhaps reflection as well. We might be able to touch on some of that as we go through our conversation today. But understanding the significance of Diwali, its origins as a big festival of the year, what are, Dhruv, the historical reasons behind why Diwali is actually celebrated?
Yes, thank you, Tony, and a very interesting question. So it's a very, very long history. So India is the only culture where there's been over 12,000 years of agriculture history. So it's the only place in the world where people have been plowing the same land over and over again for 12,000 years. So in that experience, that they noticed that during this time, from now Diwali until middle of January, the seeds and the crops won't sprout at the same speed as they do at other times of the year. And it's not just because of sunlight, it's just because of the way that gravity works. And so the way that the sun and the moon's rays, that because the moon affects tidal movements on the planet, the way the sun and moon affect the planet brings very kind of like a denseness and darkness, and that reflects in our system, because just like tidal waves, our body is 75% water. So our body slows down, our mind slows down, we feel a little low, we feel gloomy. You can just see outside, it's darker. The clocks are going back forward in the UK. And so you go into lower emotional states. So this was the days where people were lighting those oil lamps, and you lit those lamps in your house for practical reasons. So when the season comes for the next couple of months, you light up the entire house. So as many lamps as you can find and afford, and you light it up. Otherwise, it feels very low at this time of the year. So this festival of lights of Diwali has the origin in this meaning.
What's really interesting about it is that what you're saying to me is almost like a transformation, isn't it? With all the changing seasons and where people are plowing and harvesting, and the days are shorter as well. It's almost a transformation of life, isn't it, Dhruv?
Yes, exactly. When in the Indian health sciences like Ayurveda, whenever there's a change of a season, it affects the body and the planet in many ways. So whenever you go from the summer to the autumn to the winter, the wind element, as they call it in the spiritual sciences, increases in the body. And that's why you need more of the warmer oils in your food. That's why you use the cooking oils in Indian culture. You need more of the teas. And when summer comes, it's more of a need for the salads, the more raw cooked food. And so these seasonal changes bring a great immense impact on the body, but also on the mind as well. And these lights have a significance for that reason.
I was just going to say, it also has not only effects on the body, but the psychological aspect of as well. So let's talk about the connection between Diwali and the divine feminine, as it were.
Okay, this is very, very special and very close to my heart because we just celebrated Navratri, which is one of my favorite times of the year, and Diwali is also one of my favorite times of the year. But yeah, Diwali is essentially a festival of prosperity. It's a festival of power, and it's a festival of wisdom. And we all want to achieve peace in our lives by attaining these three. So the first 2 days before Diwali, we celebrate wealth, which is Dhanteras. So we're living in a society where we can't survive without prosperity, money. And what kind of wealth we're looking for? Anapagaminim Lakshmin Avaha. We want steady wealth. We want wealth that takes us on the right path. We want wealth that takes us on the path of charity, compassion, and divinity. And after attaining that prosperity, which is represented by the goddess Lakshmi, we move on to the next day of Diwali, which is power, Kali Chodis. So we worship the goddess Kali, who's a personification of power. Wealth without power makes you vulnerable to vultures in society. So power is a must. Power helps us protect our wealth, and power helps us put the wealth to the right use. But what's the use of wealth and power without wisdom, which is the actual day of Diwali, Ma Saraswati? We see so many people around the world who are wealthy and powerful, but they don't have wisdom, that wisdom to connect with your own self, the wisdom to connect with your fellow human beings, the wisdom to make this world a better place to live. And if we have these three things, the prosperity, the power, and wisdom, then the life is lit with numerous lamps. You have the light of love, you have the light of friendship, you have the light of brotherhood and sisterhood, and the light of equality. And that's what we need in modern society. And that's what the festival of Diwali teaches us.
So very well explained. And you mentioned the wonderful time of Navratri and all the celebration that goes on to it. It's a wonderful build-up to Diwali, isn't it? Because soon as Navratri is over, you've got Dussehra, and then straight off that falls Diwali. It's almost like a build-up to this massive, fantastic event, isn't it?
Yes, that's absolutely right. And what I was talking about earlier, the seasonal changes, it's this time when Navratri happens where the monsoon finishes. So it's a very, very beautiful, placid time of the year where it's very moist and you feel this kind of like the denseness in the environment. It's very watery. It's very emotional. People feel very emotional during that time. And what better way to express those emotions than through devotion to the divine feminine? And that divine feminine is very, very important in the world because everyone attains their birth through the mother, and we worship the mother in various forms, in plants and animals and so on. And the mother of the universe, which we call Jagadamba, should we worship on Navratri. So it's a beautiful time of the year to practice that devotion, which a lot of people resonate with because of the devotion they have towards their mother.
And hence we talk about divine feminine here, and you've explained that only too well with devotion to one's mother as well. And talk about emotions, and for me emotions are shedding tears, which I do quite often, I hasten to add, but that's another program for another day. Let's talk about the lighting of lamps and diyas. You touched on this a little while ago, Dhruv, and it is very central to Diwali. It's a significant thing that we see in many people's houses. What does it actually signify in both religious terms and also the theory that you gave us as well, Dhruv?
Yes, thanks, Tony. Obviously, the practical reason for this was in the farms and so on. It was a very, very dark time of the year, so people lit those lamps. So it isn't a time for sadness, depression, feeling gloomy. It's a time for light and happiness. So it spreads that joy and that light. Light scientifically is very important for us because our visual apparatus, it's in such a way without light we can't do anything. If we were like owls, we won't care about light, but we're made like this. And so without light, we can't do anything. We can't see. So it's a time where I guess where the sun, it's in a state, it transits the zodiac sign of Libra, where it's much, much darker. When we celebrate the festival of Vaisakhi, it's at the opposite end in the sign of Aries, where it's at its like most exalted state. So because the sun is in that state of Libra, in the debilitated state, it's a very, very dark time of the year, and the darkness sets out much earlier than usual. So as a result of that, the light is very, very important. And there's obviously kind of like the historical reasons behind it. When Ram and Sita and Hanuman returned to Ayodhya, Hanuman came to Ayodhya for the first time after 14 years in the forest. All the citizens lit small lamps for him on the way home, and all of these events are connected to the making of the festival. So the lighting of lamps continues even today, making a celebration of the year gone by. And the flame, the Agni in the light, is what connects us to the divine beings, the devas, and the light and the fire symbolizes wealth. When we look at the Sri Suktam, there's a close connection with the goddess Lakshmi and the fire, Jata Vedo Ma'avaha Anapagami Lakshmi. So there's a close connection between the fire and the goddess Lakshmi, and fire gives us wealth because fire always gives in an upwards direction. It never goes downwards.
Yes.
And so that's the attitude we need to have in order to attain wealth. We always need to have that positive mindset. If you look at entrepreneurs, you see the famous families like the Barneys, people can be kind of born and brought up in the same household, yet one of them may be like a natural entrepreneur or successful person, one person maybe not. And it's entirely as a result of this mindset. You either have it or you don't, and you get it from the blessings of Ma Lakshmi, and that symbolism of the fire represents that. You're always moving in an upwards direction. So even if you go through struggles, you can still recreate what you may have lost. And you see examples of that with Steve Jobs. He always recreated that success wherever he went because of that mindset and attitude that he had. So it's very, very important with that mindset and attitude to meditate on the fire and its qualities for wealth.
So beautifully explained there. And I think at this stage, it's probably worth just letting our viewers and listeners know that if you are going to be lighting theirs, please make sure that you do it in a safe environment and in a safe way on a solid surface. And we here at iGlobalnews.com encourage people to act responsibly and also light their diyas in a responsible way as well, and not on a porous, soft or plastic surface as well. Moving on, Dhruv, the triumph of good over evil is something you mentioned earlier. I'd like to pick you up on that, because the triumph of good over evil is often the central message that resonates around this time of the year. Can you tell us a bit more about its genesis in our scriptures and relevance today as we have it in our world?
Yes, no, absolutely. It's got its origin in the Ramayana, because it's connected with the festival of Diwali with the Ramayana, and the Ramayana is a very kind of ancient scripture. It's one of the oldest ancient scriptures available in the universe, at least 9,000 years old. So people most popularly feel that the Ramayana is an epic. So I beg to differ. It's not an epic. It's a history, because how many people in Greece today know about the Iliad and come back to India? Not only India, but how many people who are interested in Indian thoughts know about the Ramayana? Not just know about the Ramayana, how many of them respect the Ramayana? So it's very easy for a book to become famous. It's very easy for the book to become in the bestsellers list, but it's very difficult for a book to remain in the heads and hearts of an entire society for thousands of years. And the Ramayana is such a unique scripture that has remained in the hearts and heads of billions of people for thousands of years. So it's the Ramayana, it's a lantern that we have. What's so special about the Ramayana? It gives us eternal wisdom. When you see the wonderful smile on the faces of yogis and saints who have studied the Ramayana, how does one recognize them? The true identity is in their eyes and their radiating face. If you see that joy, if you see that bliss in their eyes and their face, you'll say that this person has experienced something unique in life. Adversities are part and parcel of life. Nobody's 100% happy. Nobody's 100% unhappy. But the way that great people handle their adversities and still keep their cool, makes them unusual from the rest. And the reason behind this bliss on their face is because they have this lantern of wisdom, and the Ramayana is one such bright lantern. And it's defined as a living poetry which connects life with spirituality, because we create so many walls that we say that this is life, this is enjoyment, this is spirituality. But Ramayana connects that life spirituality. And Ram, he, in spite of all the adversities he faced, like being separated from his wife, being banished from the kingdom where he had to live in the forest, his feet was be walking on thorns and getting cuts and bruises all the time. He had to fight a war to rescue his wife, but he managed to do that all with a complete equanimity in his mindset and complete composure. And it teaches us that no matter what you go through life, your composure and your balance must be there. And you see in modern times with spirituality, Indian spirituality is obviously becoming very popular around the world. But the root thing about Indian spirituality, it teaches you how to go through these trials and tribulations in life with an even mindset. And many great people throughout history study the Ramayana. If you look at Shivaji Maharaj, Gandhi, any person who's had a great impact in Indian culture has studied and worshipped the Ramayana. So when Ram came to Ayodhya, the citizens embraced him and offered him that lamp, light in the lamps.
So what you're saying is that there's a lot of wisdom to take away from this, but also with this, a transformation of life and understanding and this human world that we live in.
Yes, absolutely. It's I feel that a lot of people in today's world, especially during the COVID era, they have a lot of fear in their mind. When Ram went to the forest and he bowed to his mother's feet, like all the people in Ayodhya came to embrace him. But when he placed his feet outside the palace, Vashishta, who was a royal sage, said that Nahi tad bhavati rashram yatra ramona bhupati tad varam bhavati rashram yatra ramone vatsati. In the place where Ram is a king, that place, Ram is not the king, that place can never become a kingdom, but even a forest can become a kingdom if Ram is present there. So in the place where Ram is not the king, that place can never be a kingdom or even strive to be a kingdom. Even if there's nice houses or thousands of people living there, if Ram is not there, it can never be a kingdom. But if Ram is there, it can be a kingdom. And this is the speech of a sage filled with truth. It's not the dialect of a bard to make it sound nice to a king. The reason for this is that Ram said, Avayam sarva bhutebhyo dadane tad vratam mama. I'll give only fearlessness to all creatures. So if such an atmosphere is created inside a kingdom, let alone a house, there'll be happiness. Each and every person in that house will sit there waiting for the other person in the house to come home. And the more and more such people there are in the house, the more the bliss and happiness will spread in that house. Only can that house become Ram Raja when people are free of fear. When there's no fear in our lives and we don't give fear to others, then that's where Ram Raja comes. Not just in the state, but also in the home and also within our own lives. The most important thing is to remove that fear. And the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, when Shri Krishna describes the first quality of a divine person, the first words he used, Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhi Gnana Yoga Vashishtati. Fearlessness, purity of mind, wise apportionment of knowledge, and concentration. So fearlessness is the first divine quality. How can we see whether a person is divine or not? There's first two qualities. He should not fear others, and second, others should not fear him. We all know that fearlessness means that one shouldn't be afraid of others, but what if others are afraid of him? If this is the case, and it's very bad, it's like a demonic thing. So this is the difference between a divine person and a demonic person, and between divine nature and demonic nature. A person with a divine nature does not fear others, and nobody fears him.
So beautifully explained. We're talking to Dhruv Chhatralia with our Living Bridge conversations, and we'll be continuing our conversation with Dhruv in just a moment. iCommunity shines a light on the wide array of community news, arts and culture, and prolific charity efforts within the Asian diaspora networks. It's where the global Indian impact on the ground is celebrated. Log on at iglobalnews.com. As we continue talking with Dhruv Chhatralia today, Diwali is the subject of our choice as we explore Diwali in a really detailed way. We do hope you're enjoying our conversation so far, and don't forget to drop us a line and your questions, and Dhruv will be more than happy to answer your questions as we approach the end of the show today. So with these Living Bridge conversations, iGlobal celebrates the British Indian diaspora as we bring you many such insightful discussions, recipes, heartwarming anecdotes, energetic fitness routines, festive fashion, Bollywood music, and much, much more. So do stay tuned at the iGlobal social media channels for updates on regular streams with an array of guests that embody the Living Bridge. And you can also play back any of the past sessions on our Facebook and YouTube channels. They are here for you. Would love you to use them. And of course, you, our viewers, are very much at the heart of our conversations. So do join in with your questions in the comments box to be picked up towards the end of the show, as I said a few moments ago. So, Dhruv, as we head back to our discussion today, and as I said earlier, for the benefit of our viewers, we are talking to Dhruv Chhatralia as we celebrate and talk about the wonderful time of Diwali. We can learn from the life of Sri Ram, Dhruv, but there's a lot of hidden gems that we don't acknowledge in our day-to-day lives. So what can we learn from the life of Sri Ram?
Yes, I could definitely say many things we can learn from the life of Sri Ram, and we can just even go to the origins of the Ramayana, why it was written, the root of the story. One day when the sage Valmiki was moving on the banks of the river Tamasa, he saw a scene. There was a hunter who shot an arrow, which killed one of two birds sitting together. So they're very cute and innocent birds. One of them was killed and fell down with the arrow in the body. When he saw this, Valmiki was overwhelmed by the pain, and the following words came out of his mouth. What have you done? These poor birds have done nothing to you. Why did you kill them? You separated a lovely couple. Your act will be condemned forever. Suddenly he realized, what did I say? The divine seer Narad appeared there and said, Valmiki, this is the first poetry of the world. The goddess Saraswati has blessed you. Now it's your duty to write a scripture. Which scripture? Is it, if you want to write something, you need to have a hero. Who can be the hero? This is a question he asks. He says that whatever he writes should be a contemporary scripture of all times. The scripture should never become obsolete. I want to write a scripture. I need a powerful hero who has great qualities, who's powerful, full of valor, who knows his righteous duties, who remembers people who have done good for him, who has a sense of gratitude, is truthful, steadfast in his vows. If there's anybody like this, Naraji answers, yes, there's one person who's like who you're looking for, the hero of the scripture. He's Ram. He has the qualities that you're looking for, and above it, he is self-controlled. He is extremely powerful, and he radiates light from his face. He is intelligent and patient, and he attracts everybody towards him. So taking Ram as a central character, Valmiki wrote the Ramayana. There's many things I can say about Ram's qualities. Some particular things I want to note is that when Ram was told that he was going to be coronated as a king of Ayodhya by Dashrath, the look that he had on his face, and then the look he had on his face when he was told that he was going to be banished in a forest for 14 years was exactly the same. There was not a single difference of expression or mindset when he was told that he was going to be made the king, and there was no change in the mindset when he was told he was going to be banished in a forest. This is what we call Sthita Prajna in the Bhagavad Gita, in our spirituality, a person of settled intelligence, where there's completely equanimity of mindset. And you see a lot of people practice yoga in the West and pulling their limbs and doing twists. But the true meaning of yoga, according to the Vedic scriptures, is a person who is Sthita Prajna, settled in intelligence, completely equanimous. Other qualities of Ram, we see the humility and simplicity of his life, that despite being the king of a kingdom, he used to sleep on the ground in the forests. And he was a model, what we call the Maryada Purushottam. He always lived his life within limits. He never transcended those limits. And we always see in modern age that people transcending these limits, the limits that have been set to them according with the law or their duties in society. And Ram always knew how to stay within those limits. He was a perfect son. He was a perfect husband. He was a perfect father. So he showed us how to live that life in accordance with perfection. So we perform the perfect karma and remove ourselves from the cycle of karma as well.
Isn't it incredible that what you just explained says everything about character? And there is so much to take away from that, isn't there, Dhruv? Because just the mere explanation of sleeping on the forest floor, sleeping on a palatial bed, and the character that's denoted in just simply that saying in itself, it's just incredible.
It's absolutely incredible, and that's why Ram has lived in the heads and hearts of thousands and billions of people for so many years. And people may forget various books and various best-selling books, but the Ramayana has always remained in people's hearts, and not just in India, but if you look at throughout Asia and now in modern times throughout the world. There's temples of the Ramayana in Angkor Wat in Cambodia, in Vietnam, in Cham. So there's Indonesia, and now all across the world, because the Indian culture has spread across the world. And there's lots of things we can learn from Ram's life as to how to live in modern times. And when there's a part of the Ramayana called the Ram Gita, when Lakshman asks Ram, what is Maya? What is illusion?
Yes.
Ram said that illusion is not something about the world. It is a feeling of me and mine. when you have that feeling of me and mine, because there's just a small bit of skin that separates us from the rest of the world. Otherwise, everyone's got the same organs, the brain, and so on. Everyone breathes the same air. But that
Yes.
small portion of skin that separates us from the rest of the world makes us think about me and mine. But it's such a small part of who we are. And when we look at an atomic level, if you see the atoms, it's got the protons, neutrons, electrons, which is less than
Yeah.
1% of the atom. The
Yeah.
99% of the atom is pure space. So 99% of what we are in turn is pure space. But because
Indeed.
of that
Yes. Yeah.
small 1%, we feel that of me and mine. That's the illusion, not the world. So you see a lot of people, spiritual people, saying that the world is bad. World is not bad. It's
No.
the minus and the I-ness which is bad.
Indeed, it is. And once again, very well explained. Thank you for that. Let's move on and talk about, whilst we talked about the lighting of the ears and bringing light into this world, there's a different form of light that's brought into this world at this time of the year, and that is fireworks. And Diwali has to be associated with fireworks. The louder and the brighter, the better. And no matter what hour of the day that they go off, but they do go off nonetheless. Are they really necessary, or should we actually explore alternatives through?
Yes, absolutely. At this time of the year, you get all sorts of celebrities in India starting to preach about the environment and protecting the environment.
Yeah.
It obviously coincidentally coincides with the traditional Indian festivals when they start thinking about the environment. So without obviously naming names, you have certain cricketers trying to give tips on how to celebrate Diwali and not do fireworks. And when they kind of use like jet fuel and use drinking water to clean their cars and so on. So there's a like kind of like a two sides to these people, that they preach about the environment, yet they like eat animals and so on. So I wouldn't pay much attention to these celebrities. The spiritual meaning behind the fireworks has been part of the Indian tradition for a long time. When you had the days of gunpowder, and even before then, when you had the Brahmastra, the divine weapons. But the reason behind the fireworks is, before Diwali, we have Navratri, and before Navratri, we have Pitru Paksh. So during that time, our ancestors, according to tradition, live on the dark night side of the moon. So the moon rotates around the earth. When the moon and the earth start facing, it gets very heated on the moon. So the ancestors come through the rain and fall inside the soil and the plants and get absorbed by the plants. And the ancestors stay there. And so for that 2-week period, we offer rice and water to ancestors. But after that time, and Navratri and then Diwali, ancestors, through the evaporation of water, are making their way back, that journey back to the moon. And in that navigation process, that's why we used to have the fireworks, and before then, the divine weapons, where they would light up the sky and create those sounds so our ancestors could navigate themselves. So there's a very, very heartfelt and pure and beautiful meaning behind that. And it's very, very important that the fireworks, which is only one day of a year, where Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, and Buddhists get to enjoy themselves, compared to fireworks on New Year's Eve, fireworks on weddings of Indian celebrities, which nobody complains about. Why can't the people from these religions enjoy themselves for one day a year and also do their duty towards their ancestors?
And very well said and put as well. And I think it's also fair to say that through a special message from you and I, and that is, and from all of us here at iGlobal, that if you are going to be using fireworks, please make sure you use them wisely, and make sure that your pets and animals are kept indoors, out of sight as well, because they get particularly affected by them. And please use your fireworks safely, and make sure you read the firework code and the instructions on your fireworks carefully. As Dhruv said, use them, enjoy them. There is a significance behind them, but make sure you act safely as well. So moving on then towards the end of the show, Dhruv, just wanted to say we're on the subject of Diwali, and a quick reminder to you, our viewers, to cast your votes for the Great British Indian Survey. And that's on whether it's time to declare Diwali a bank holiday in the UK or not. A yes or no is all we need from you. So make sure you head over to the iglobalnews.com website for this quick yes-no poll and have your say. And this is what it looks like. Be declared a bank holiday in the UK. I, for one, will say a massive yes to that, but I need an excuse for a holiday. Drew, as I'm sure you'd agree, working 60 hours a week yourself and the rest. So there we are. Drew, back to you then. Tell us about your spiritual journey and how does a busy lawyer who works 60 plus hours a week find the time for such insightful research?
Thank you, Tony. And I totally concur with you on that one. Without wishing to be reported to the Election Commission for this poll vote, I will try to sway the vote in favor of a yes as well. It'd be very nice for people to be able to celebrate their festivals with their families and without having to worry about other things at the same time. So yeah, no, as my spiritual journey started in 2008 when I went traveling around the world. I went traveling to Australia, Africa, South America, Europe, Asia. It's when I read a lot of philosophies of lots of different cultures during that time. When I went to India, when I studied at the feet of sages in the Himalayas and the River Ganga, I was really drawn towards Indian culture, the Gita, the Upanishads in particular. And yeah, my spiritual master asked me to write books on the Bhagavad Gita, Hanuman Chalisa, Sri Suktam, and other scriptures. And that took a 2-year journey outside my work in law. And then after that, I was giving talks on it at his request as well. So over time, the organization has grown and I've grown as well. But the best way to learn is to teach. But at the same time, you have to have the qualifications to be a teacher. And I've started to practice that in my own life as well. It's very important to look at someone's actions more than their words. And so it's very, very important to imbibe those in our life. And obviously, Lord Ram is a perfect example of someone, and Lord Krishna as well, who imbibe those qualities in their life. So it's a continuous spiritual journey. I continue to grow. The students and our teachers continue to grow as well. And it's been a beautiful journey. And relating to the question how I manage it with my work, it's just what I call my dharma. There's a reason why we're all here in this world. And I'm fulfilling my dharma in learning the spiritual wisdom and spreading it in society as well.
And you do that so well because I just wanted to remind our viewers and listeners that we've done many a podcast together and we'll continue to do them. So head over to the iSpirituality section of iGlobalnews.com and look out for Drew's contributions, which are just as good as, if not better, and will be even better than the contributions we've had from him today. So a massive hearty congratulations to you, Drew, and thank you for sharing your time with us on that as well. So as we conclude here today, I just wanted to say that Diwali comes but once a year, and just to repeat what you said earlier on, Drew, that it's a very special time to celebrate it well with family and friends. But your special message to our viewers today.
Yes, no, I wish you all a very happy Diwali and a prosperous New Year. And may these beautiful spiritual qualities we describe of Lord Ram and the divine feminine of wisdom, power, wealth, and compassion, fearlessness, they all come into your lives. And may your life be lit with numerous lamps of wisdom, love, compassion, friendliness, and equality. And may we continue to spread this light throughout the whole world and dispel this darkness we have today. Wishing you all a very, very happy Diwali and a prosperous New Year.
Drew, thank you so much. We've got a viewer question that's just come in as we close the program. And Aditi says it was very inspiring to have you on the show. And is there a prayer that you can share with us that we can recite during this time of Diwali? What a brilliant question.
Oh, thank you, Aditi, for the beautiful question. And of course, yeah, so there's various prayers you can chant. One would be from the Upanishad, which Barack Obama quoted in his Diwali message. Asatoma satkamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityuma amritam gamaya, om shanti shanti shanti. Very powerful mantra from the Britannic Upanishad, which means lead us from falsehood to reality. So we often translate satya as truth, but it's actually reality, seeing the reality as it is. So lead us from falsehood to reality, lead us from darkness to light, which has a very strong connection with Diwali, and lead us from death to immortality, because we believe in the Vedic cultures that we can kind of escape this cycle of karma and death or rebirth. And Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, which means Om peace peace peace, as Tony mentioned in our previous sessions on our iSpirituality, the Dharmic discourses. We talked about the meaning of Om. the Om, A-U-M. A means peace to the body, U means peace to the mind, and M means peace to the intellect. So that's the significance of Om. It's a beautiful prayer. And we also have various mantras to the goddess Lakshmi. They're very widely available amongst genuine spiritual organizations that you can find. That's a beautiful prayer to do to Ma Lakshmi on the 2 days before Diwali, on Dhanteras, and then the day before on Kali Chodas, doing the mantras of Ma Kali. You need to be initiated in those mantras. So I don't want to say them out to the whole world, but if you get initiated, there's mantras you can chant, and there's also mantras to Hanuman to dispel negative energy away from the house, which can be chanted as well. And obviously on Diwali, it's very auspicious to read and recite the Ramayana, and also to pray to Ma Saraswati as well. So I hope that answers your question, Aditi.
Very nice question indeed. Got a message from Abra today for you, Dhruv, and that is, it's really wonderful as far as the discussion is concerned, thanking you for your time, and especially in this era of uncertainty and lack of peace and happiness everywhere. You mentioned that in a discussion today about this special time of the year about bringing people together, didn't you?
Yes, no, that's exactly right. As you said very rightly, Abra, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of gloominess in today's world. And festivals like Diwali, not just through the fireworks, through the lights and the wisdom associated behind it, we can spread a lot of light in this world. The world needs more good people to be out there and spreading this wisdom and to practice it in their lives. And we, as people from Indian culture, have this duty to spread this message and to grow spiritually through that message as well. So I absolutely agree with you there.
Wonderful conversation and brilliant input, as always, from Dhruv Chhatralia. Dhruv, thank you so much for your kind time and sharing your wisdom and thoughts with us here today on our iGlobal Living Bridge Conversations. It's been, as always, a pleasure and a privilege talking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony. An absolute delight to speak with you, and especially on this sacred and auspicious festival as well. And always a delight to see your face again and your smiley face. And may the divine bless you always. Thank you.
And you too, and your family too. And so that brings us, sadly, to the end of today's inspirational show. And we come back tomorrow with the enigmatic singer, songwriter Navin Kundra. And he is in conversation with Women Empowered founder Rena Ranger right here at 1 p.m. UK time. So stay tuned. And don't forget, you can catch up on all of our conversations on our social media through iglobalnews.com. It's been a pleasure and privilege being with you. I'm Tony Patty. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and a huge thank you once again to Dhruv Chhatralia. Bye-bye for now.
iGlobal Radio is the brand new hub of podcasts for and about global Indians. News, views, interviews, wellness, money matters, and much, much more. Tune in to iGlobal Radio at iglobalnews.com.